So I do want to start off by saying that I am an Olaplex-based salon. Everything I carry here is Olaplex-based, from the shampoo, conditioner, setting treatments, and oils. So what I want to get into is also business on how to sell products as well, because I do feel like a lot of us are really in tune with the creative side of being a hairstylist or a colorist, but a lot of us kind of neglect the business aspect and how to make residual income and or continuously making profit off of retail. So I know there's a lot of great programs that salons do where they save the retail that you sold and then they will go ahead and use it for future classes. And that's a great way to do it. I know that a lot of people sell the retail and go on vacation with the retail money that they make. So retail money is really great and it's just extra income in your pocket. So as I go on with this, I kind of want to talk about how what are some great tips and tricks to kind of get your clients to be on the same page with you on what they should use at home or vice versa. Right away when my client comes in for a consultation, I can usually tell almost immediately what they're using in their hair. And I'm about 95% spot on. A lot of times we feel that silicone feeling as hairstylists. I'm sure you guys are all aware of that feeling where we're like, okay girl, what are you using? This is too soft. Like our hair does not naturally feel like that. And I kind of always jump ahead and say, are you using Tresemme, Pantene, Organics? Like what are you using over the counter? And they're like, what? How'd you know? And like, I can literally feel this thing like just sitting on top of your hair. And I do want to reiterate that if you are going to be spending money getting your hair professionally colored, I would hope that you are going to go home and use a $2 shampoo that could essentially ruin the hair, damage the hair, and or rip out your toner. So all of these are great things to talk about with your client prior to even starting with them. And that's like, I did go to business school actually before I went to beauty school, so I kind of learned some tips and tricks on a business aspect as well. And before you even start on a client and you talk about products, they're more aware in between the whole entire appointment. Like let's just say I say the word Olaplex, hey, you know, like I think that you should be using Olaplex, you are a platinum blonde, we should be taking care of the hair, blah, blah. They might not hear anything I'm saying, but that Olaplex word will trigger them in a future conversation I'm about to have with them in the next hour or so. So I might say it again and again and again, and then they're gonna start remembering that word and then actually being in tune with it and asking questions about that product. Another thing that is such a great tip, and I've been doing this for 4 years now with this tip, is I try to leave any product that I'm selling kind of in any direction I'm facing them. So if I am facing my client to the mirror, I try to have the Olaplex in front of them, and then as I'm like foiling her or moving her around and I'm adjusting her, wherever I'm adjusting her to, I know directly in her eyesight there is also Olaplex that she's looking at. And then again, if I turn her around to my shampoo bowl, I know that she'll be looking at my back bar, which is all Olaplex. So just like tips and tricks on how to retail, and this could be with any retail. This is just a great thing that I've learned to do, and it's worked tremendously with me. So I know I speak fast, and my sister will read all comments if there are questions. You guys can follow me on Instagram.com @NoraDeBabna, and you guys can DM me after this live, and we can go from there. So how many of us right now, how many of our clients are asking for these front pieces to be light and bright right in front? I know that during quarantine, when I was on Instagram on my Explorer page, it was like the hottest thing. Like all the pictures that I was seeing was like these two front pieces right here. And it is a great substitute to add to someone who wants a brighter frame without necessarily going bright all over, and or someone who has mature hair and their grays usually on a lot of women tend to be right here. So it's a great service to do for all ages, and I think it's a great service for someone who has mature hair, and when they are around the hairline or side areas, it's a great way to brighten this up. That way their hairline kind of blends through those grays into that face frame. So I'm gonna get started. I have right here with me Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 10 volume. If you guys are familiar with this lightener, it is very aggressive, it works very quickly, and you can do a lot of damage with this. So I think the misconception with Olaplex is people think that they can use Olaplex and crank up their volume to 40, and that's absolutely not the case at all. So please be mindful on how you're mixing your formulas and how much of Olaplex you're using. So again, this is just 10 volume. It still is going to work really fast and aggressively. So I am going to be using Olaplex with it. And the cool thing about Olaplex is it does kind of show you the ounces on here. I will be using 1/16 of an ounce. So you go ahead and squeeze it in, and then you just drop it in. I like to mix my Olaplex as soon as I start, just because we all know that color and lightener tends to still work even in a bowl. So I just did mix this, but as soon as I start is when I add my Olaplex. You do want to mix your formula first, whether it be color and or your bleach, your lightener, and then you go ahead and add the Olaplex. That's the best way to consume this product. So I am going to first talk about my service that I did for Emily. This is called a 9-foil balayage, and the reason why I created this type of service is because a lot of times my clients are either in college, coming in between holidays, and or have a last minute thing that they want to go to an event, and they don't necessarily want to spend that lump sum of getting lightened completely. So I kind of came up with a way where I was like, you know what, I want to give them an in-between option that they can come in and get this service done to kind of hold them over until they come in for their actual service. So for instance, the first thing I ask is how they part their hair, and I go directly with that. So if they're telling me that they part their hair strictly down the middle every time they wear it, then I go ahead and part the hair down the middle, and then I go from ear to ear as partings, and then top of the crown. It's 3 foils here, 3 foils here, 3 foils on top, and I tell them all the time, I vividly tell them, listen, if you're inspecting your hair, you will still see outgrowth. This is for someone who is just trying to get by. It is a lower priced service, and if you are in line at Victoria's Secret or the grocery store or wherever you're at, the person behind you can still see that you got your hair done. The only thing that will be different is if you're actually inspecting your hair and you're lifting in certain areas, you still might see that outgrowth. If you are a person who wears your hair down almost every single day and you rarely wear your hair up, this is a great opportunity to get the service done to hold you over. If you're a type of person who wears your hair up every single day for work and the outgrowth will bother you, this is not the service for you. So be mindful of that, and I would say that I'm the type of person who never ever wears their hair up, so this 9-foil balayage would be great for me if I was a client. Now, if someone again was to wear their hair up every single day, this might not be the best option for them. So make sure your consultation is very thorough about that, and explain that precisely. What I did is I added a foil right above her ear. I already finished this. I just really want to get into the front part of this. So I added a foil, and you can go vertical or horizontal. The way I do it, because Emily does not wear her hair up, is I go horizontal all the way up. You can either weave or slice depending. We had turned Emily into almost a full blonde, so I did not weave. I completely sliced through the foil, and I went as close to the hairline as I could. You will see harsh lines in here after, and that is totally okay because I want to get as close to the hairline as possible, but I already know that at the end I'm going to add a shadow root back in here, root smudge that, and color melt it back out into a really nice silvery toner. So that harsh line will not freak me out or affect me or affect Emily because I am going to go back in and add a shadow root to her. For someone who does not want a shadow root, there are clients who are like, I don't want to touch my natural hair, and that's perfectly fine. Then I suggest that you weave the foil and really work on your blend and make sure that that is really fully saturated and blended if they don't want to go back in and add a shadow root to this. So that's what I did all over. So I did 1 foil here, 1 foil here, 1 foil here. The 1 foil I did right above her ear. That way if Emily were to wear her hair up, she could at least see some lightness right there. And then again, 3 foils on top of the crown. So if you guys actually see, and I will show you, it looks like it's all nice and light here. And then if you actually open up the hair, she still has her outgrowth. So it's deceiving. It makes it look like she got her hair done. But in reality, if this were to bother your client and she doesn't want to see that outgrowth, then this is not the option for her, and or you can add more foils and service it that way. This is also a great service to add to somebody who never kind of feels light enough in front. And this is something that you can focus on in the fronter pieces, where I know that there are some clients who are blonde anorexic who never feel blonde enough or light enough, or just kind of really care about the front. This is a really great service to add. So I'm gonna put this away. And do we have any questions?
Yeah, so I'm gonna completely pronounce this wrong. Why use Olaplex if Shop Prof Blonde Me has hair bonder already?
That's a great question. So, it's Schwarzkopf.
I figured.
Not a hairstylist. So Schwarzkopf does actually have a bond thing inside of it. I'm gonna actually grab it and see. It's not enough for me because I have actually witnessed this completely destroy hair instantly using 10 volume. So I had a mannequin at home that I had for years, and during the quarantine I was playing around with like lighteners and services and stuff to see, like, I really just didn't want to lose my niche because I was off for 3 months, so I really just wanted to keep my hands, you know, playing with color and stuff. And I used this with 10 volume, and it completely ate up my mannequin's hair. Now granted, my mannequin probably was old and I didn't clarify it like I should have before I started, but it was to the point where when I opened the lightener, or when I opened the foil, my mannequin's hair was just completely like fried. So when I did that, I realized like, okay, this still needs a bond builder in my experience. Now, if you're using 7 volume, you don't necessarily, I mean, you can go by the manufacturer rules and it says that there's a bond in there, but to me, that's not enough personally from my experience. My clients are spending a pretty penny in here. The last thing I want to do is fry or damage them. And above all, I do not cut hair. I own a color bar here and I strictly color. So let's just say I were to damage or fry her, I can't just cut her hair and make it feel better. So I'm very mindful as being a healthy hair activist, and Olaplex works for me. And I know to use Olaplex with this. Again, if you feel comfortable not using it with this, that's totally fine. But this thing is aggressive. So that was a good question. Mel, you can read off questions
Okay.
as we go.
Pauline says, would you do a face frame on someone with a fringe?
That's a good question. Actually, I wouldn't, because sometimes the face, and it depends on the length of the fringe. If the fringe is starting, and I always direct my clients to how high they want to go with their balayage, I either say eyebrow, but then I'm blending up higher, so it's going to go to forehead, cheek, but then it's blending up higher, so it's going a little bit underneath your eyebrow, or chin level, and it's going up higher, going to your cheek. So if they already have a fringe that's kind of by their eyebrow and or cheek, and then you face frame that, it might look like breakage, even if it's not. The hair could look absolutely healthy and be healthy and feel healthy, but at some point it will start looking like it broke off. Do you guys understand that? I know, I'm sure some of you guys have seen that, where someone's hair just has a fringe and it looks like they're fried, but they're not necessarily fried, it's just the fringe is shorter. So I probably would talk my client out of doing that, and I have before multiple times. I always tell my clients who have bangs, if you want a balayage, if you want these face frames, grow out your hair, grow out your bangs. So good question. So what I do is I completely make a, I would say a triangle right above her eyebrow, so right over here. Now I am in the Midwest, and to us, in my personal experience, we as Midwesterners don't necessarily like the idea of the blonde going right to the root right here and giving us that California look. The reason why I'm saying that is because we don't have palm trees and sun every single day here. We're very windy and it's very Midwestern out here, so it's really awkward, I would say personally, to have really bright blonde pieces almost sun-kissed as if we're laying on a beach somewhere and or our tan or out in the sun all the time. That's not our case here. So for us to have really platinum blonde roots here going all the way straight down might scare off the client, because we're not used to that look out here. Where in California, Florida, somewhere warm and sunny, I'm sure that this is a very common thing to have. Almost all the girls probably have really bright fringes here, but out in the Midwest, it's not really common. So I always tell my client that before I start, how high do you want to go? And it's very rare that they're like to the root. Almost very, very rare. So the reason why I'm only going to take a triangle section here is because if we were in California and if my client actually really wanted to have that bright look, I would probably go all the way down to the sideburn area and brighten up this whole look. But because again, we're in the Midwest and that's not what my client wants, I am just going to take a nice chunky piece, triangular section, about 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches, and that's what I'm going to brighten and lighten is right here. So you guys can actually see her outgrowth. It is pretty. I mean, Emily, when's the last time we did your hair?
I want to say 3 months ago.
3 months ago. So that's a pretty nice outgrowth here. Also, the next question I would ask my client too is if she has grays, because if she does have grays, then I want to make sure that I educate her on telling her that if she wants to do this, her grays will probably be blended better. But because Emily doesn't have grays, I'm just sticking to this right here. Again, it's a part consultation. You're going to ask your client how high she wants it. You don't want to freak them out, especially if this is a new service for them where they're like, okay, let's try it out. I've been seeing it on Instagram. And then here you give them these platinum blonde pieces right in front and they're chunky. They might be very turned off by that idea and be like, okay, wait, I thought I was going to like this, but I actually don't. I need a root back in. So what I like to do is over direct. The reason why I like to over direct my foil is because I want this to fall back and be seamless. I don't want her to have a harsh line and I don't want it to go too high. So when I over direct, I'm saving that blend and also saving a little bit more, not going to her root. So this is her front piece, and I literally just take 2 sections, and what I'm doing is going straight down just like that. So this will be one piece, and this will be one piece as well. There are people I've seen that bring both forward. Look at that outgrowth. So what they'll do is actually just slice it going that way. But like I said, that's not our goal here. We don't want it to be so bright, and we don't want it to go so high up. So you guys can play around with this and see what technique works for you. So far I've been doing it this way, and I've been loving the blend. I've been loving the way it looks, and my clients have been loving it too. So again, I'm just gonna cut that through, make this one foil, make this the other foil. I am using 10 volume, and I will not be bringing it down. I will just be using her root, and I am going to over direct, so I am going to pull this back in foil. Any questions?
A lot of questions on PPE, visors. I don't think they got your introduction.
Yeah, okay, so we are in Illinois, and our rules are still very strict. PPE is very important still to open a functioning business. Hand sanitizers, face shields, face masks, making sure your clients washing their hands as soon as they walk in. What else? Just the basic standards of PPE. Now, I had mentioned in my introduction that this is my best friend, and I hang out with her almost daily, and my sister is the cameraman, so I'm not actually wearing a mask only due to that purpose. But if it was any other day in my salon, I'm 100% wearing a mask, not taking it off, making my clients wash their hands, hand sanitize in between, wear their masks, walking around my salon, like doing the whole 9 yards, not allowed to bring their purses in, just their essentials, their keys, their phone, their wallet. I haven't been accepting any other payment except for PayPal, Venmo, QuickPay, anything cashless or cardless. Contactless is what I've been doing. It's been very serious still out here. I've been taking it very seriously still. So that's a good question. Illinois is still very strict about it, and I know that a lot of other states are as well. I don't even know if any other states kind of yeah, right? It's been still pretty strict. So what I'm doing is, and this is a thicker section. I could very well cut that in half and make this a foil, make this a foil, but like I said, I don't want it to be so bright and so loud in front of her face. So me having a thick section, when I do over direct, it is going to be a little heavier here, so it's not actually going to fully saturate in between, which is going to give her dimension by the root. So I am going to pull this back. I like to use an embossed foil because it will actually hold really well. So when I do push this back, I like to get as tight and locked in as I could, and then I go ahead and brush the root down. And then I put my finger here, and then now I can actually see in between the foil. And what I'll do is I like to be in control when I paint. So I like to make sure that I'm using a very small brush, and I just go ahead and feather that up just like that. I do not like to overlap much. I am using 10 volume, and at 1.2 I will go ahead and open her foil. Once I start seeing this lift about 2 levels, I will go ahead and start bringing my lightener down all the way through. Again, it's 10 volume with Olaplex, and her hair is in such good health, so I know that I won't damage her. And then what I like to do is take my brush, whatever I have left over, I never dip again, and I just kind of feather that out. Again, leaving some of her root because I don't want to get too far up. And when I go ahead and shadow melt her right back out, it will create a really nice blend. I do keep the rest of the color out. I will go ahead and fold over. Let me tighten that up again. Perfect. And I do like to kind of push that down, incubate the heat, seal it up, let that sit just like that. So that is my first foil. Again, not touching this. This could come off as breakage. Even if her hair is nice and healthy, these are her baby hairs. So if I go ahead and lighten and brighten this, this could at some point look like breakage, and I don't want that. So tuck that behind her ear. I like to have full control over my work. Nothing's in my way. If something's in your way, go ahead and push it back. You don't want to get sloppy with this because this is lightener. You don't want to overlap much. So this will be my second one. I am over directing back, being so when I lighten and bring it forward, she'll have a gradient blend. Again, all of these pieces that are falling right here, I'm not worried about, I'm not trying to grab. What you can do also is kind of shake those pieces out and let those fall. That way you don't go ahead and lighten these pieces. So I'm gonna grab this again, make that nice and tight, grab that tension. The really cool thing about this Framer dispenser is it kind of already has a nice fold over for you. I'm gonna bring that back just like that. Move all of these pieces forward.
Somebody's asking what lightener are you using?
I am using Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 10 volume. And I am, Blonde Me with 10 volume. I am only doing her root. Her root is a level 6-7 natural. It is going to lift really fast. I've been doing Emily's hair for about 10 years now, so I know exactly how she lifts. So I am mindful of it. And I'm gonna just feather that out and let that sit. Again, removing that right here, folding this over so I don't overlap. Perfect.
Somebody's asking if it is going to bleed.
Good question. So I can show you guys the underneath of how tight that actually is. Can you come over here, Mel? So come on this side. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's because I pulled it back and they're thicker sections, it's not actually going to bleed. Now, if I took finer sections, it might, but I make sure that I'm very close and tight as I could. And then when I seal it, I make sure I fold over to incubate the heat. That way it won't bleed. Another reason why I won't bleed is because I'm taking a thicker section. Now, if I'm taking a very, very thin section and I'm not getting as close and I'm not tightening the foil, yes, it can very well bleed. But because I'm feathering it and not actually pushing my color brush into it and making sure I'm fully saturating, I'm just lightly feathering through. I'm not really scared of it bleeding, but I also do check. I will make sure that I lift the foil to make sure that the lightener didn't seep through both ways. So good question, but I haven't had a problem with that. And I just, instead of bothering my client, I do put the rest behind her ear. That way it isn't in front of her face. Moving on to the second part. Same thing over here. I'm going, so now if you want to stand right here. What I'm doing is going diagonal, cutting that through, just like so. This is going back for over direction, and this is also going back for over direction as well. I did this to her 3 months ago, and you guys can just see for yourselves when I over directed how nice that blend still is. Yes, granted, she's got outgrowth, but it's not harsh. Can I see that camera now, just so I can see? So if you guys can see how that's like growing out, it's not a harsh line at all because I'm over directing. So if she were to wear her hair up, yes, she has outgrowth, but it's not as harsh. Now, if I were to paint straight, she might have had that outgrowth come through and come in a blunt line. But if you guys can see, it's more so seamless. So letting that sit here first. Grabbing this. Shaking out. Do you guys see all that hair that's fallen out? Letting all of that hair go. So look how much hair came out of that. Imagine if I lighten and brighten this. One, it's so soft, it's baby hair, so it's fragile, and I would completely damage her hair. So, fun fact about Emily. Emily, if you guys go on my Instagram and look at any of the vivids that I post, I would say 75% are Emily's hair. So Emily goes from pink to purple to yellow to red to orange to blonde to lavender, all in literally a year. Yeah. And if you guys can feel her hair is so soft. She's been a consistent user of Olaplex. She's been so loyal to the product. And I pretty much kind of told her, you know, if I'm going to continue to do your hair and you're going to be my house model, I obviously need your hair in the best possible health. And so you will need to start using Olaplex so that I can guarantee that your hair is nice, soft, and shiny for when I have to do lives or when I have to do like anything for a different company. So she really has been so loyal, and every time she comes in here, and I will post her before picture, you guys won't even believe how thick, healthy, and blonde she is. Her hair is in such good condition. Emily, I'm so proud of you. By the way, if I don't tell you enough, like, I'm very proud of the way you are taking care of your hair. So do you see how I'm just kind of getting that in there? And then I'll go ahead and just lightly feather. Because I'm not pushing so far down onto the root, I shouldn't have to worry about it bleeding. Now, if I were to go like this and push, yeah, I would probably have to worry about it bleeding. But I'm just lightly feathering. Again, moving the hair out of the way, folding this over, lightly tapping that, sealing it so we can incubate for the heat, and letting that sit just like so. And you guys can see actually her hair is drying, so I did go up as far as I could, and you guys could see this nice line right here. This is not something I worry about. This will come right out when I shadow root her, but if I don't get it so far to the root, I don't want her to feel like I didn't do enough for her. So I try to get it as close as I can to the root. Again, during consultation, I ask her how high she wants to go, and then I'll shadow root it just a smudge back out. That way it's a nice seamless transition. When she goes like this, it is so nice and blended.
What city do you work out of?
I'm in the suburbs of Chicago. Again, guys, I want you guys to see what's gonna fall out of this. All of that I do not lighten. Now, some of you guys could lighten that if the hair is healthy, absolutely lighten it. To me, Emily is in such good like health of her hair that I don't want it to look fried. So I'm just gonna remove all of this hair. Now, if your client was someone who wants that really nice, bright California, southern palm tree look where it's nice and bright and light in the hairline, you probably don't want to remove all of those pieces, because at some point there was some of those pieces will have root and outgrowth, and she's gonna still want to see it really nice and platinum. So again, with your consultation on how your client wants to achieve the look, Emily trusts what I'm doing, so I know that she will not mind that I'm leaving some of these pieces out. And also because we did a 9-foot balayage and she still has outgrowth in between her hair, I don't want it to look just super platinum and super fresh here. Then she like sways her hair and she's got a little bit of brown inside. So this is a look that will look right for Emily. So these are just, I just put 2 foils on each side, and that is like literally it. Now I will open this foil so you guys can see how fast she lifts with just 10 volume. I think a lot of us are so used to, you know, being like, oh, well, I want it to be so light, I'm gonna use 20 or 30 volume, not really realizing what type of aggressive bleach you're using. Even with Olaplex, you will still create damage, so you wanna be mindful. 10 volume and letting it sit versus using 20 or 30 and frying is going to give you the same look. People think that because they're using 10, they're not gonna really get that nice lightness and brightness. That is not true. Lightness and brightness also comes from toner and formulating your toners, and also making sure it sits, and also making sure you're not rushing it, but also making sure that you're sealing the foil to incubate that heat. I do not use a heater. I don't use light. I don't use anything of that sort, because if you guys actually follow manufacturer directions, it literally says do not use heat on the back of lighteners. So be mindful of that. If you are working fast and you're just trying to get your client out of the chair, and you put her under a dryer with 20 volume with using this type of lightener, you will literally turn her hair into elastic and rubber, and she will not come back, and she will tell everyone you fried her hair. So please be mindful of the products you're using and reading manufacturer directions. A lot of people are still putting people under dryers using Schwarzkopf, and it's so scary because I know for a fact that the lightener on the back says do not use heat. So be mindful of the products that you're using. Your clients are here to trust you and to trust your judgment on what you're doing to them, to their hair. I want to get back into the business side of this really quick. A lot of people don't feel confident enough selling a product. It could be Olaplex, it could be a hairspray, it could be anything you're trying to sell. It could be a car, okay? The way you can sell a product, and this goes for anything, is being confident in what you're selling. So if you don't necessarily believe in the product, and if you don't believe in yourself and how you're going to approach the client or the service that you're going to sell, you're not going to sell it. So this could be the best product out on the market, and if you are not confident in your delivery, you will not sell it. So to me, I would tell you guys to completely understand the product, read the manufacturer rules, read the ingredients, be so aware, maybe watch some videos, follow the product online on Instagram, social media, whatever the case is, and making sure you understand the product. That way when your client's asking you about it, you're not like, oh, let me read the directions really fast. Like, no, you're about to jumpstart that conversation like, hey, you know what? You're using a quarter size of Olaplex number 4. It sides really nicely if you add water back to the hair. A lot of people think that this product is a small bottle and they're not going to really get their money's worth of $28 per retail price. But what I tell my client is, yes, this bottle is a very small bottle, but I can assure you that this will last you longer than you buying a big bottle of a liter of a different brand. Reason being is because Olaplex is very concentrated. A little bit goes a long way, and that's their motto. Therefore, when you are using shampoo, you are going to be using a quarter size, or depending on the hair length and thickness density, you will assess it that way. You use a quarter size of shampoo. What you're going to do is you're going to lather it in your hands, put it in the hair. If you feel like it's still gooey and not really sudsing, you're just going to dip your head back in water, reactivate the shampoo, and go from there. If you feel like you need to use more, which you won't, go ahead and do so, but be mindful of how much you're using. Don't always just put a glob on your hand. Be mindful of how much you're using. It will last you. Instantly, right off the bat, that's what I'm telling my client. So when I shampoo her, and this is how I'm talking to her now, during her consultation, during me applying color. So then when I go ahead and take her to my shampoo bowl, I'm going to be like, hey, Emily, you know what? I'm going to show you exactly how much I'm using, blah, blah, blah. I don't even care if she's going to buy the product from me. I can care less. All I know is I'm 100% confident in my delivery and telling her exactly how to use a product, that she might be mindful and opening her eyes to buying this product. So even if she's not interested in buying the shampoo, she just bought shampoo from wherever else, I'm still telling her how I'm using the product. When I'm blow drying her, I'm telling her I'm using the treatment. When I'm curling her, I'm telling her I'm using the oil. Even if she's not purchasing today, I'm still telling her exactly how I'm using it. So as I'm seeing her back to my shampoo bowl, I am immediately being like, hey Emily, you know how earlier I told you you're using a quarter size? I'm actually just going to show you for yourself how much I'm using, and I'll go ahead and squirt a quarter size on my hand, and I'll put it in her hair, and I'm like, hey, you know, like how I'm not really lathering really well? And she'll like, yeah. And then I'll go ahead and put the hose over her hair, kind of reactivate that water, activate the sudsing, and then I'm like, hey, now do you feel it? And she'll most likely be like, oh my god, yeah. And I'm like, I just added more water, I didn't add more product, so and so, so and so, right? So that's a great way to help your client understand how much product they're using and really feeling her getting their money's worth. Any questions so far?
Jill says, clearly you know your client, your sections seem large. I would worry about saturation. Would you take a smaller, narrower face frame section at first to be safe, or add another foil?
Absolutely. You're so right, yes. I am taking bigger sections because Emily is not going to want the blonde right to the root and really, really bright in front of her face. Again, we're from the Midwest. It doesn't really work for us here. Granted, there are girls who do have that look and it's beautiful, but we're not used to that look more so here than you would be in California or Florida, anywhere in the hotter states, Arizona. So I would take, depending on my client's consultation, depending on her, I would take thinner sections. I would go up a little bit further and I would saturate a little bit more. But again, because my client and I had already consulted and she doesn't want that look, there's no reason for me to take thinner sections, going all the way to the root, making sure she's really bright, and then me go ahead and retone that down. So again, depending on your client, if you are from a warmer state and your clients are loving this look and making sure that it's super nice and bright, then yes, take very fine thin sections, make sure you're cutting it crisp and right to the root, really saturating it, and going from there. So that's a good question. Was that Jill?
Yeah, that was Jill.
Good question, Jill. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to open this foil just so you guys can kind of see her lift. So she's already about 2 shades lighter now. So I'm just gonna let that sit a little longer. If I wanted to, I would just go ahead and reapply one more time, but I'm not going to, just because I am making that nice and tight and I am not in any rush. I like to let that process on its own. Once I do feel like it's kind of stopped where it was, I will go ahead and re-add more lightener to it and kind of get that one more time. If you guys want to say she did not bleed, I don't know, Mal, if you can like kind of get through here. So I don't want to move the foil too much, but there is no bleeding here if you want to get this side too, because of how I placed the foil. So now, granted, if I did kind of place it forward or sloppily and didn't kind of make sure it's all together, yes, would I be worried about bleeding? Sure, it is a thicker section. Good question. Anything else? No. Okay, so what I'm going to do while this process is, because I already did the whole head, I want to talk about my formula. I think the one thing that a lot of clients' mistake is the type of blonde they want. And if you guys agree with me, let me know. I have clients that come in here and they're like, I want this white, bright, light blonde. I want to be platinum. And I'm like, okay, so in that case, you think they would want to be a little bit cooler tone, depending on how they describe it, right? So you sit there and you're like, okay, well, this is a cooler tone blonde. It's more silvery. It's more whitish. It doesn't have a yellow undertone. It's nice and bright, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yes, that, right? So you go ahead and tone them, and they automatically, they have already seen the brightness from the lightener. So when you tone them and then you flip them back around into the mirror, they're like, I feel like a brunette again. And that's because you use an ash toner or a violet toner that eliminated all the brightness into their hair. So at that point, they're like, I feel like a brunette. I don't feel like I'm blonde. I just sat here for 2 hours. I put all these foils in. I just spent $300. I don't feel blonde anymore. That's a great time to explain to your client the difference between blondes. So I have learned this the hard way, where I felt like all my clients were looking for that ash look, and I would make them so ashy, and I'd be so proud, like, oh my God, there's like no yellow in your hair, you're so ashy, and they're like, this is not blonde. So in that meantime of talking with your client and consulting, make sure you guys are using the right formula to get rid of any excess warmth without removing their brightness. So do you guys ever feel like that, where your client is describing this platinum ash look, and then you deliver that, and then they're like, no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted more of a blonde look, and you're like, this is platinum. Like, I can't get any lighter than frying you. But more so, they were looking for that brightness. So I realized with Emily would rather have that cooler tone look, that white silvery look with no yellow. And of course, I explained to Emily, this look can only last for a certain time. When you start jumping in the pool and being in the sun and further on, you will kind of lose that cooler tone, and you will need to come back in for a toner. When they do come back in for a toner, you will have to reassess the toner you're using. So the reason I'm saying this is because right now I'm about to share my formula. I really don't like sharing formulas with anyone that is not in my salon versus you guys, because what I use on my client is not going to necessarily work for you and your client. So I just want to be mindful in sharing that. My formula right now is what I'm using to assess her right now. When Emily comes back in, that same formula is not going to be used again, because now she's going to be different colors versus her toner fading out furthermore. Does that make sense to you guys? So I'm just telling you guys what I'm using. I'm not telling you guys to go home and use this formula. You will have to reassess. So with Emily, I just want to show you guys her outgrowth. She is about a level 6, 7. I would say closer to a 7. It does look dark in here. This looks more like a 6, but I assure you it's more of a 6, 7. So what I'm going to do, because she is a 6, 7, is I am going to use level 6 on to blend this through. The reason why I'm using level 6 is because I want this line to go away, but I still want this to be a shade lighter. I still want it to look like she got her hair done and it went really high up and then it just got smudged back out. So I would never use a level 7 on this, because a level 7 in about 2 washes will get this line back in. Thumbs up if you guys know what I'm talking about. This line will still come back through after her toner fades. So if you're not formulating the right toner to use on her root, this will come back, and then she'll be like, Nora, I just spent all this money and now I have a harsh line in my hair. So make sure you guys are using one shade darker on the root to make sure that when her hair is fading, she does not get that sharp line back through. Again, toners don't last. Depending on the brand you're using, it could very well last 2 washes, 4 washes, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 months. Make sure that you guys are going a shade darker, especially when you're creating a sharp line. That way you make sure that that goes away. So right now I am using Pravana. I am using 6NTA, which is a newer color that they came out with. And I want to just be precise on what it is. It is a neutral dark ash blonde. And what I'm going to do is literally color melt it into their express toners. And this is ash, violet, and smoky silver. Another thing you will have to remind your clients is when you're using ash and silvers and violets to tone them, that what's going to happen. Sometimes if the hair is porous enough, it will actually turn silvery, lavender, or green, which does never happen to you, but I know we get you kind of lavendery sometimes. Make sure you tell your client that prior to doing their services. A lot of my blondes, at some point, they have too much of a silver tone in some areas, or too much of a lavender tone in some areas. When you deliver that consultation properly, you assure them, hey, you know what? I just want to let you know that we have been getting you blonde for a while now. Your hair could be porous in some areas. I do want to let you know that there might be a thing where some pieces will turn lavender or silver. It will come out in a few washes. Don't worry about that. Just don't use purple shampoo as of right now. Let that kind of fade back out, and then you can go ahead and use the purple shampoo. Once you comfort them, letting them know that, let's just say I am gonna get her hair lavender in some areas or silver in some areas, at least my client won't turn around to the mirror and freak out, being like, oh my god, what did I just do? Like, why is my hair so silvery? I didn't want silver, blah, blah. And I always assure them that when that lavender and silver fade out, it is the prettiest blonde underneath. So assessing that and letting your client understand that before even starting on them kind of eases them a little bit better. So consultation is super important. If you guys aren't consulting right away and or are neglecting your consultation process, the service at that point is a miscommunication. So make sure that if I can tell you guys anything, make sure your consultations are on point, precise, and confident when delivering. So I'm just going to show you guys while the front pieces process. I'm just going to kind of grab all of this. So I am going to push this forward. And I'm just going to do one piece while she's done processing. So let's just say I were to grab this piece right here. Get that out of the way. So do you guys see how she still has outgrowth? That's the look we're going for. We're not trying to get her platinum blonde to the root. One, falls around the corner, and two, when I go ahead and blend that through, all that root will pop out really naturally. So I'm going to just take this piece right here. And I'm actually gonna grab gloves. Mel, do you wanna read off another question?
Yeah, Jill says, what product are you using now to root extend and tone? I missed it.
Okay. So Jill, because I went in and did horizontal sections into her root area, what's gonna happen is she is going to have that harsh line. I am literally creating this harsh line to get as close as I can to the root area. So I am creating it, therefore I know it's there, therefore I need to get rid of it, right? So the reason why I had to create those harsh lines and get as close as I can is because I knew that in this process, in the service, I will go back out and root smudge it. So what I'm doing now is going one shade darker than her natural tone. That way I can guarantee that that line is gonna come out. We all know that toners don't last as long, so what's going to happen is I don't want in 3 weeks her to wash her hair, jump in the pool, we still have a little bit left of summer, her call me and be like, hey Nora, you know what, I still feel like I have a really harsh line here, it looks like highlights that grew out and I don't like it. So for me to avoid, I want to go one shade darker on her root area to avoid that. So I am using 6NTA by Pravana. What I usually do as well is I like to add a little bit of gold in my formula, because what happens is if the hair is too porous and I let it sit too long, her root area might have a little bit of a green or muddy undertone look. Now granted, that green muddy undertone look could possibly very well wash out after a few washes, but if I can avoid it entirely, then I would. So I did not add green in here because I know how Emily's hair lifts and it never ever deposits green. So if you know that your client's hair is very porous and it'll deposit green, go ahead and add gold to your formula to kind of contradict the color wheel and get rid of any green undertone. This is a TA. So I like to make my brush really nice and clean. So as you can see, Mal, if you go over here, I'm very precise. So I just got all that color off of my brush. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just dip lightly right here. That way I have full control. And I'm just gonna root smudge just lightly. I don't want it to bring it all the way down because I just added it. So if I added it, I just wanna get rid of that line. Just like so. Then I take very thin sections during this part. I'm gonna go ahead and flip that back and just make sure I'm doing the back too. Just like so. And then what I like to do to get rid of this out of my way is I'll go ahead and grab some of that root and just kind of push that down just so I can have leverage and room to move. So I'll push that out of my way, kind of go back through. And then if you guys can see, I only did about 1 inch of her root. And then I'm going to take my Express toner, get rid of all that. This is violet, ash, and silver, smoky silver. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my fingers right by the root. I'm gonna slap that on nicely, just like so. And the cool thing about this is you can go ahead and push that back up just to kind of make that nice and seamless. And you guys can actually see how quickly this toner works. I'm just kind of go like this. All right. This toner works really nice and fast. And to me, I get the best silvery ash tone with this. So now I just kind of want to see the camera. Okay, do you guys see how fast that's eliminating the yellow? And I just want to show you guys the difference on that. You guys see that? So nice and light, nice and if I move the color, I just want you guys to see that yellow is almost nearly gone. So I let that sit. And then I wipe my hands off just to make sure that I'm not re-adding that color anywhere else. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna let that sit. Now granted, I usually would have this already completed. I just wanted to show you guys one, of how it would work. And then two, if you guys can see just a slight lavender tone to it, that's okay. I had already warned my client that that lavender might be there. Now granted, this lavender might freak you out. If you are using a lavender toner, violet, silver, or ash, you might be like, oh my God, it's turning lavender, I have to go rinse her immediately. And then here you are rinsing her too soon, and then you are in the shampoo bowl, and I'm sure this has happened to all of us, right? You're looking at her hair and you're freaking out because you thought you got her lavender, or too dark, and you are rinsing her and like all the yellow comes back through and you're like, crap, I just wasted all that toner, I just wasted all that time, I should have let it sit on a little longer. Again, that all happens with trial and error, and that has happened to me plenty of times before. So now I know, actually this lavender is not freaking me out. It looks like it's getting so much darker. Mal, if you can come over here. It already looks like it got so much darker, and that could very well freak a lot of people out. But just know that once I rinse this out, it'll be the most lightest blonde. And you guys can actually like remove the color to kind of see. So just so you guys know, don't let that freak you out. So I'm just gonna let that sit. I am gonna open up her foil one more time.
Jacqueline says, not really familiar with Pravana line other than their vivid colors. Did you use equal parts of the ash, violet, and silver?
Very good question. Who was that?
Jacqueline?
Jacqueline, good question. So I am actually new to Pravana. I've been using Pravana for a year now, and it is completely an amazing line. This is not a sponsored post by Pravana, I promise you. It is one of my favorites. I love the consistency of it. It is a 1 to 1.5 or 1 to 2 ratio. I mix 1 to 1. Be mindful of that. So if you want to listen to manufacturer directions, that's absolutely fine. What I'm mixing right now is her root is 6 NTA with 10 volume, and I use that 1 to 1. And then my violet toner, or my end toner, is violet, smoky silver, and ash. I use 30 grams of I use 30 grams of violet, 30 grams of ash, 10 grams of smoky silver. Reason being is smoky silver could also very well look super dark on porous hair. So I have to be mindful of that. The violet's already eliminating the yellow, and the ash is going to eliminate any more of the brass. It's going to help the violet. The smoky silver is a tone that I'm achieving, that smoked out blonde, that cool tone blonde. So if I were to use 30-30-30, that smoky silver could very well overpower my ash and my violet and make it a really dungy blonde. So another reason why I play with mannequins too is to play with formulas to make sure to see like, okay, well this is this, if I added less of this, this would have done this. And with over time I've realized that that smoky silver could very well look nice and dark if the hair isn't past a level 9. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, so I just want to show you guys how nicely she lifted. I am going to go ahead and rinse this out now because this is exact level that she was here. Obviously, we all know that with lightener on the hair, it looks very deceiving. So I am going to pull this foil out, and what I'm going to do actually is then bring this lightener down, and you guys can tell I left her root out. There's no bleeding. Do you guys see that? Absolutely no bleeding. And I'm going to now, for the next 2 minutes or so, because I am about to rinse these foils out, I am going to just go ahead and bring that down. I am not going to put that back in a foil because I don't want to over process her hair since her bottom is nice and light already. I just kind of want to get it that nice bright look. So I'm going to just kind of go over that one more time. Again, this is going to have a toner over here, so if it's not as light as this, that's not a problem because I will shadow root that back out. I just want it to look like really nice and fresh for her today. Now, granted, depending on the look that your client's trying to achieve, you can let this sit on a little bit longer on top over here. So that's going to be right here. Get that out of your face, Emily. There we go. And what I'm going to do, actually, is I'm going to clip all of this back because we're only going to rinse those pieces right there. Good. Emily lifts so nice and quickly. I've been doing Emily's hair forever. Mal, if you can just show them. Good. So I know that Emily's hair works really fast. It's really strong, so I don't have to let it sit on long, but if I wanted to, I could. I wouldn't be freaking out about it. But she's exactly at the shade that I rinsed the rest out. So I nicely saturate that. Again, being mindful with her ends. I don't add any more to the ends. If you guys can see, her ends are kind of still a little bit more dry because her ends are light. So there's no reason for me to over process these ends. And what you can do as well is take your comb just to kind of make sure that it's nicely saturated. And I'm just gonna go ahead and lightly break that apart and brush that through. Do you guys see that? So you guys can kind of see that it isn't to the root, but the way I over directed it, it's not a blunt line either. It kind of has a nice gradient look to it. Any questions, any comments, anything happening over there?
No, Gerard said a great lesson. Rachel says you don't need to wash out lightener before toner.
You don't need to wash out lightener before toner. Is that what it says?
And it has a question mark after it.
Wait, make sure you read that one more time correctly. What does it say?
You don't need to wash out lightener before toner. I think she's asking.
Okay, yeah, no, so you absolutely 110% have to rinse out your lightener before you tone. 100%. That is a chemical reaction waiting to happen. You also want to stop the oxidation of the color. So yes, you have to rinse your lightener before the toner. In fact, this is the time where I put the Olaplex treatment in her hair. I shampoo and condition before I tone. So please make sure that you're mindful of that and you are rinsing out your toner or your lightener 100% shampoo conditioned. This is the perfect time to apply your number 2 by Olaplex. And then you can go ahead and tone. Now, a lot of people say that they don't like to use lightener on wet hair. To me, if the hair is nice and strong, but also it could be nice and fragile as well, using it while it's damp is fine. You just are gonna probably want to let it sit on a little bit longer. So be mindful of that too. I did apply her lightener on damp hair, and that is because I had to rinse everything else out prior. Just gonna recoat that one more time. Okay. Any other questions, Mel?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm gonna take you guys to the bowl with me while I go ahead and shampoo these pieces out. And I just want to show you guys how little of a product I'm using of Olaplex. Can you see that blend, Mel? Can I see the camera?
Yeah, you can.
Do you guys see how there's no sharp line? It's like a heartbeat. So it's like lower here, not really much here, and then higher here. So when she wears her hair back, it's going to have a really nice flow to it versus me creating sharp lines right in front of her face.
Gerard said, special thanks to Olaplex for providing great education and for the ongoing support of Hairbrained.
Yes, nice.
Lisa says, are you doing a shadow root when toning? I feel as though this looks splotchy.
Okay, good question. Yes, totally using a shadow root. I'm using the same formula I'm using for the rest of her head, which is the 6NTA and the Violet, Ash, and Smoky Silver. So I'm just going to show you right here. So Mal, can I see the camera? So if you guys see right here, it is more of a heartbeat tone. It doesn't have a harsh line in the front. So when she actually, so Emily, I'm going to have you look down. Perfect. So do you guys see how that falls? She still has a little bit of shadow right here, because of the over directing. So creating it this way shows that it is going to have a smoother transition. And then when she lifts her hair back too, I left all of the dark right in front where those fell. So when I tone this, I'm using a darker toner here. Therefore, it's going to get rid of the rest of the yellow. I don't need this to be platinum blonde. That is not the look we're going for. So for me, I can leave it just like this because I am using 6 NTA to cover this out. And if you guys can see, it's not as harsh. So I'm going to squeeze the hair back up. It's really nice and seamless because of the over direction. Now, granted, yes, we do see a little bit of the root that is going to be smudged back out with her root toner. Okay. So Emily, come over here with me. So what I'm going to do, Emily, you are going to stand right here. And you're going to cut down. Good. So this is what we're doing to rinse her out. She's my house model. This is not weird, guys, I promise. I just want to bring this forward so you guys can see that as well. I'm going to brush that through. Perfect. Do you guys see, so Mal, I'm going to hold this one more time. If you guys can actually see, it is not harsh, and I'm actually pushing this back. So do you guys see that? It's not a harsh line. I did over direct, so you don't really see it. It looks like it's going to the root, but it's not. So when I shadow the root that back out, it's going to be very transitional. Do you guys see that? Yay, nay. Oh, no worries, Rachel. Thanks, Gerard. This makes sense. Perfect. Why do you not all go to the root? So, Lori, the reason why I'm not going all the way to the root is because I had explained earlier that we're in the Midwest. So it's not a thing where we're so bright and light in the front. That's definitely, to me, a California, Arizona, Florida look. Again, people can still have it in the Midwest. It's just not my client's preference. So I kind of make it nice and natural on top. That way I don't freak her out about it. Love how much you work the lightener in with your hands. Yes. You should be able, depending on how you apply the lightener, you should be able to run your fingers through it without it lagging. Like, you should be able to genuinely get your fingers through that. When you're, this is another thing that I want to tell you guys. I never, ever, ever spin the hair, like spiral it like spaghetti, ever. I make sure that when I apply the lightener, it's going straight down. That way I can guarantee that when I'm brushing her out, I'm not ripping her hair out and it's not knotty. This is previously lightened hair and I am using lightener on her again. Therefore, I don't want to damage. I do feel like the way you apply the lightener could very well help your end results. So if I'm going to sit here and I want you guys to see how much, like, her ends are pretty dry. Like, I don't really saturate her ends because she's already light. So be mindful of how you guys are applying the lightener. So Mal, go ahead and hold that for me. So I am rinsing with cooler water. I'm going to get rid of that. And when I do rinse, I always make sure that I'm pushing the lightener down. So you guys can actually see, like, I am pushing the lightener down, getting that all out. And look how deceiving lightener is, guys. Look how yellow she still is. People think, oh, like, you're so nice and light, I gotta rinse you now. Be mindful of that, because this lightener is so deceiving that you think you're getting your client so much lighter than she already is. And then you put a level 9 toner on her and she's only a level 7 or 8. And you're like, well, why is she still yellow? So I always tell my clients, listen, I know you're seeing your foil right now, but don't think that that's the color that you're going to be, because once I rinse you, you're more than likely going to still be yellow. So do you guys still see that darkness right here? Which is great because I'm only putting back a 6. I'm not trying to make this platinum blonde here. I still want this to be really nice and light. I still want this to be nice and light, and I still want this to have a nice gradient shadow. Just not as dark as her natural color. Okay? So this is my Olaplex. I'm going to focus that. Okay, I literally want to show you guys how much I'm using on this small piece right here. I'm literally going to probably be using like that. Do you guys see how small that is? And it's gooey. Olaplex is definitely more of a concentrated thing. So I'm going to emulsify it in my hands and then apply. I'm going to be applying it like color because I don't want to make it sud right in her face. You can always add more. And what you can do too is if you add water, so I'm just going to drop a drop of water, it will go ahead and sud. I'm obviously not using a lot because I still have to rinse her. I'm just going to try to stop the oxidation as much as I can from the lightener. I like to break that apart right here, make sure I'm getting in between. Emily, am I getting your face?
Nope, you're fine.
Promise? Okay.
I promise.
So we're going to go ahead and rinse it through.
Now, at this point too, you could have just done Olaplex number 2 and not shampoo her, but I still have to tone her. Also, can you just show them this right here? Look how nice she lifts. Do you guys see that? This is from earlier today. I still have not toned her. This is no toner, and she lifts so nicely. So I am gonna put number 5. I'm always very, I love conditioner. I have very coarse, thick hair. So to me, I always tell the client, however much conditioner you wanna use is on you. With the shampoo, you don't have to use much, but with conditioner, use however you please. Good, good, good. Rinse that out. And now I am gonna put number 2 just for a few seconds to soften the hair before I go ahead and put the toner in. And guys, her hair is so strong, like so strong. I don't know if you guys can even see that shine. Yeah, you can focus it, Mel. This is no toner, guys. Look how nice and even that is. And then cool water. So all of this I would be explaining to my client as well. I'm using 4, I'm using 5, I'm using cool water to rinse. Sorry, Emily. And Emily's so used to the cool water because she's been a mermaid for 10 years. She's just been now going blonde recently, but she has been a total mermaid. Okay, I'm gonna give this to you. Emily, go ahead and hold on to that for me.
Sure.
And you can go back to your seat. Okay, so I am going to head off right here. I am going to apply the rest of her toner, and I will either jump back on and show you guys the after, or I will go ahead and post the after in the comments below. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great Labor Day weekend.